I know, right? Good luck listening to this podcast, dog.
If you got that man,
I was tripping so hard. I was like, I got 3 cigarettes and I got this bike with a flat tire. I can go anywhere, bro.
we on a trip, you want to go into Mars and back, man.
Best ever. All right. Best ever, all right.
You are now listening to Casting in the Trees. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Casting in the Trees. Yes, we got a very special guest here today. He is the owner of Montana Canna, Zach Block. Round of
everybody.
applause.
Should have brought the soundboard out.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Grayson, thanks for inviting me in.
Yep, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're really stoked to have Zach here today. He's owns a marijuana company, Dispensary, here in Kalispell, Montana. And I know we got a lot of questions about that, just given this weird year of how everything's just been like kind of in a weird limbo almost.
God,
And
what a year.
people are so curious if it's even legal right now or like if you can possess it. And,
Okay, we can get into all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
that's a good way to start that.
Yeah, so let's start off when you opened up your dispensary.
You know what? Let's start. There's probably some people listening to this who are like, can I light this up? And what if I get seen? Can I get caught?
Yeah,
So yes,
exactly.
weed is legal in Montana, everybody. You can grow it, you can have it, you can smoke it, you can pass it to the left. But for someone in my position as a dispensary owner, Grayson and I, we cannot yet sell it legally until January 1. So it is legal. It is just not sellable or purchasable. So hope that clears that up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, that's great. That's basically the biggest curiosity I've had because they made it legal, it seems like, and then said you can't buy it. So,
It's a trip, like you don't want to be seen with it. You don't want to be caught or stopped with it. You don't want to have it in your vehicle. And for me, I kept my nose clean my whole life, but now, I mean, the stuff's in my car all the time. Like we're doing deliveries, and you don't want to get caught with it.
Yeah,
That's just
totally.
that's historical. But
just a weird fear, just
it's legal.
ingrained in us.
Don't be driving around high and don't be smoking it in public asking for trouble. But I don't think anybody's going to give you any trouble with it.
So for those of people who don't know, when can you actually buy from a dispensary legal?
Not on December 31st in time for New Year's, unfortunately. That sucks.
Okay.
But January 1 of 2022, you can walk into a dispensary as long as you're over 21 and buy marijuana in Montana.
Awesome.
With what tax percentage behind it?
20% state tax.
Okay.
Local county tax of 3% for the counties that opt in. I can't imagine any county is not going to opt in because they want that money. Even the counties that said no, if they're going to allow a dispensary in their premises, they're going to get that 3% tax. And that was a strategic element of going down to Helena and trying to make this legal. It's so anti-American, but that's what it is. So 23%. So I think, right now we're looking at $200 ounces. Like you can expect to pay $250 an ounce if you're buying rec. So for you people out there that have your medical cards, that's a $180 a year fee. But that if you buy in any amount of quantity, that's going to pay off. So we've seen a lot of people want to drop their medical cards and do whatever you want to do, but I think for the majority of patients, it's going to be financially worth it to hang on to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you actually need it, and you get a little discount on it on your tax.
Man, you know what? PTSD, I think the state's even going to kill chronic pain because that's like 40% of the card holders here, and they want that tax revenue, which is so shady.
So they're just going to go in and make it.
They're going to say there's no such thing as chronic pain. That's not a qualifying medical condition.
So they're going to kind of buckle down on what requirements it takes to hold a card.
And they might just make you prove it.
Wild.
Like it's been fairly lax. Like, how do you how do you prove a lot of this stuff without spending $1,000 going to doctors, getting documentation, and the equivalent of an X-ray for PTSD or chronic pain? So who knows what they're going to do? But if you can hang on to that medical card financially, I think it is an incentive to do it. And not that I don't want the state to have their tax revenue, but that's the people's money.
Totally.
So I'm not seeing any more or less of it. Like, you get a cheaper price if you're a medical patient. So it's just, do you want to pay more money for the product, and then the excess of that goes to the government or not? So it doesn't really matter to the dispensary.
So it's not going to really affect your day-to-day operations at your business.
Correct. I mean, we don't know yet. We're anxious. I mean, time's ticking, right? Like, we're watching and waiting to see what this all means. And I just got off a call with the Cannabis Guild tonight, who recently met with the Department of Revenue on the rulemaking session. So that is such a head trip. You just can't believe the things you hear, but it's not official yet. They write these laws, and then we fight them, and we meet somewhere in the middle. And the middle is like 1 step in from our side, 10 steps in from theirs. But at least it's some kind of middle ground there.
Yeah, you're getting something.
We're getting some.
A little closer to the goal.
Yeah.
So, I guess where like, what year did marijuana become legal in Montana, for those who don't know? And then what year did you open up your dispensary?
Cool. Good question. So I went off to college out of state, and then I bounced around the whole world working. So I think Montana was one of the first states to have a medical program. I mean, there's some OG companies here in the state that were fighting the DEA and the feds over a decade ago, like 15 years ago, I think as early as like 2006. But I was a young kid doing my thing thousands of miles away. I don't know. I wasn't even on the radar back then, but it's been a long time, and people got battle scars and some shell shock from those early days. So it's rare that you come across those people, because it just wasn't worth it. Your life wasn't that good. I mean, you were a criminal in so many institutions' eyes, and so. But there's a few people that have been around since I think 2006, and
it's so crazy to try to see people trying to do it the right way, be in compliance, doing all that way back in the day, but then, like you said, they had so much repercussions from it.
Assault
they go
rifles
to jail,
in your face, and those 3-letter words on the backs of the jackets coming in, and that's what scares me even today. Like, Grayson, like, Montana Canna is a family company, and if we get in trouble, we do something. I mean, we put a lot of energy and effort into staying compliant. Like,
for sure,
for the most part, it's the right thing to do, and then on those sections, which is just like red tape, you just do it anyway. But if we get in trouble, like I get in trouble, my mom gets in trouble. I've got 2 little kids that I got to think about. So you hear all these rules and you think how ridiculous they are. I don't want to follow them, but then, well, you're gonna for the sake of your family, your friends, your employees, your network. So I still worry about that. You try and do everything right, but even as a new business owner, I'm looking at yearly taxes, quarterly taxes, monthly taxes, and I don't know all this. Like, you don't just have a checklist of stuff you're supposed to do. You get a phone call saying, hey, you're late on something, so here's the amount you owe and the penalty.
Plus the penalties.
And the mark on your record, which adds up, and somebody's looking at it somewhere down the line.
I think we're all kind of there, too.
I think we're all in that situation.
Trying to find all that shit out.
Yeah, cheers, boys.
I'll drink to that, man.
Absolutely.
Salute.
Can't cheers water, but appreciate y'all.
Yeah, I just went full-time in here this year, and I think that's been my biggest headache, is just like dealing with all the financials and bookkeeping and taxes and legalities. And I'm not even dealing with something as sketchy as like marijuana. I'm just dealing out clothes and graphics, and it's still, I have to jump through 1,000 hoops.
This is my second time in the building. This is awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. Like, the uphill battle, rolling that boulder up, like,
it feels good.
This is cool.
Thank you.
We came in like, I want to get involved, and passion has momentum, right?
Totally.
So you guys got it. Like, this will grow. I'm sure you're struggling. I've talked to Grayson many times about how, if a dollar lands on the table, like everybody tries to get to be able to touch that, and that's great. But like, this is really cool what y'all doing. So you got this community support and grow, network with other businesses, with other entrepreneurs. Let's find ways to layer those blankets so everybody can be successful and have a place. But you guys change the culture just as much as cannabis legalization
does. That's what we're all
does.
about here, is just like getting as many people that really are aspiring to do anything creatively around the valley. Like, come on in and we'll help you push that to the next level or go further. If you need one of these aspects, we got 5 pillars of things you can lean on in here. And that's just... So we're all about that growth and just like kind of sharing the wealth of knowledge in that sense.
Right on. So check this. So you close your eyes and you can imagine this imagery, this iconic imagery of like going to Southern California and you see that like silhouette of a person holding a surfboard and a palm tree, and maybe there's like a bikini girl or a motorcycle running down the PCH. I mean, I think everybody in Northwest Montana at one point, and this is speaking from 15 years ago growing up here, but we all wanted to have a creative space where music, there wasn't podcasts and YouTube back then. Like, that's crazy. But we all wanted to facilitate a space like this. And here you guys are doing it. And we all had that passion, that idea, but the timing, it wasn't the right era. So kudos to you guys again. Like, just got to say that. Like, this transcends generations.
Yeah. It's definitely the goal here is just there's not really a whole lot of culture outside of like Western culture here. It's like just a very niche society of people that just are, I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. They're just a bunch of hardworking folk that work their 9 to 5s, do their gig, and then that's that.
Totally. And I love Montana.
I do too. With my entire heart. With my entire heart.
But, it was missing something like this and a few other things too.
Yeah,
but definitely. Montana rocks, but here we go.
For real.
Now it's better.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main goal, is just improving the place you live in.
Yeah. So
doing it for the good.
Going back to kind of, I guess, the legalization, you said right around 2014. What year did you say?
So various iterations of medical legality since like the mid 2005, 6, something like that. Okay. Like then it changed again in 2009, and then it got shut down and like gutted out. But it's been around a long time. But it only officially started getting momentum to be recreationally legal last year. I mean, I think maybe one ballot initiative failed 2 years before or something. But last year, we saw the New Approach Montana. That's Pepper Peterson and Ted Dick out of Helena. And those guys, I mean, you just knew, like, okay, this is the real one. So we got involved, and so did everybody else. And that's why it was 190 and 118 passed successfully. And, those guys single-handedly, along with a lot of like donors and people that helped out and gathering ballot initiatives and signatures and all that. But
all the legwork. But those guys were the brains behind it. And, they had a severe fight. But again, it's all timing. Like, people were ready to legalize marijuana in Montana, of all places. So, Colorado, Washington, Oregon, California, like they set the precedents, and Montana followed suit. Just so that's happening next year. Is it going to be something around here where Kalispell just doesn't allow any dispensaries? It all has to be out of city limits, or?
Good question.
Because I just noticed a lot popping up on direct, kind of like Walmart's operate. They're just on the outskirts of all the cities.
And does that change? And does that change at the beginning of 2022?
No, I was at the city council meeting last week. So again, like, I am not interested in politics. I've been I've met more senators and congressmen this last year than ever. Which, shit, you put a number like 2 or 3, and that's more than I've ever met. But but I was at the city council meeting, met some great people. Like, actually had seen some of these people on Facebook and whatever over time, mostly talking about COVID. Like, I think one guy even went kind of viral for what he was saying. But they're talking right now about zoning for Kalispell for dispensaries, and it's one thing to have a retail store in Kalispell. It's another to have a hydrocarbon, chemical extraction lab in a residential area. So, places like Evergreen, they're zoned for industrial, and that's right now where they've allowed those to be. But they may open up. I think they're going to open up Kalispell. They just have to decide, are we going to allow them within 300 feet of a park? Well, there's a lot of parks around. Are we going to allow them within 300 feet of churches and schools and all that, whatever else? So that cuts out a lot of ground.
That makes a lot of sense. That does clarify a lot of the questions I had with it. But ultimately, I just always thought it was weird because you drive down the highway in Evergreen and you could
bing,
yeah, exactly.
It's about to be every single place down there except McDonald's.
McDonald's and dispensaries.
I don't know how they're doing. I know a handful of people working down there, and it's weird, right? Because we're all business owners, so you're trying to keep a couple cards up your sleeve.
Yeah, totally.
It's like if you're not doing that great, do you make that known or do you fake it till you make it? So, but there's just so many like sharing parking lots with each other.
Yeah, it's very intense.
It's gotta be hard to get business. When
there's only 40,000 people in Montana that can buy marijuana.
I'm curious to see how that will change
are in Evergreen?
After it turns legal and like all these places start getting flooded. I'm sure just like the population census will divide and conquer the ones that'll thrive.
Yeah.
They'll just kind of weed out the ones that aren't quite making the cut.
Well, luckily for us, we have a couple roadmaps to follow with these other states. So the what's going to happen, right? Like Montana's going to run out of flower in 2022, which means that's good for us in the short term, right? So everybody should be able to make a little bit of money. But then the supply will rise to meet the demand. The supply will override the demand, and then then those prices are going to bottom out, and it'll be a race to the bottom. Who can do this efficiently? And who can stand to tighten that belt strap up and sell ounces for whatever they may drop down to, but let's just say $100. So who can do that?
Yeah.
And pay the taxes and stay compliant and buy the childproof packaging and all that. And so that's when you're going to start seeing places fall down. You're going to see at the end of this 18-month moratorium, some bigger players come in and start buying, geographical locations that are doing well. And it'll thin the herd out. And then things will balance out. Like that's what's happened in all the other states that have come before us.
Interesting. Yeah, that is quite a roadmap to be able to follow. What makes you think that it'll all run out? Just people would just be so stoked and buying it all up?
I was about to...
So... Is Montana so special that we would differ from the other states that have come before us? So since I've been paying attention, every state that is legalized, with I think Illinois was the latest state to legalize, and people were just making phone calls like there is no flower in Chicago.
I remember California even.
It's just happened like that because you can't bring this stuff across state lines. And right now, like Montana's system was set up for a bunch of small businesses. And actually, it wasn't even set up, I don't think, for businesses. It was set up like, hey, we recognize that marijuana is medicine. So if Auntie Sue needs a joint to fall asleep, we're going to let, nephew Ken grow it for her in the form of like 3 plants. And his stuff's good, so he can sell it to Bob, the neighbor, too. It wasn't really built to have these like
establishments,
massive canopy tiers. So we don't have a lot of companies that are mass producing this right now. It's all done by the majority of dispensaries are like myself, like tier 2, like a couple thousand square feet of plant.
And can you explain what you mean by tier 2 for people who don't know?
Yeah, so you've got your your family, small grows, which is called micro tier. That's anything less than 300 square feet of plant canopy. The next level up is a tier 1, which is 1,000 square feet. So that's probably a little smaller maybe a little bigger than this room. Mm-hmm. It actually produces quite a bit. And if you can turn that over 6 times a year, you can run a business off of that. But that's tier 1. And then if you want to tier up, you can't just decide you want to grow more marijuana. You have to prove to the state that you can sell 75% of what you've produced, because they don't want warehouses full of this stuff because it leaks out on the street, right? It goes somewhere.
If you're selling that 75%, then most of it's on the books too.
Theoretically, it's all on the books, right? It's seed to sale tracking, so every gram of this should be trackable. Which don't get me started. Don't get me started. It's a wet plant that's weight based that weighs less every week. It's on the shelf, and we're supposed to be accountable for every gram. And it's like you start with a bag that weighs X,
and especially
and
if you're dealing
later,
with mass quantity, that
less.
fraction of a percentage adds up.
Oh, it adds up, and it adds up quick. And then you get inspected, and they're like, "Where's this extra 30 grams?" I'm like, dude, it was in the bag.
Cultivated.
It's up in it evaporated right out of there.
That makes so much sense. I never even thought of that.
So that, in a nutshell, that's why. Like, we don't have the plant quantity in the state to supply the assumed demand. And University of Missoula did a study. Somebody else did a study, and then private companies been doing studies and health companies for forever. So we think that 15% of Montanans, and really anybody in any society, 15% of people use cannabis. It could very well be higher than that, but if 15% of Montanans smoke cannabis, we do not have enough flower to sell to that market.
Damn. Well, shit. 15. If enough pop up in Evergreen, we'll be good.
Yeah. Well, don't forget, though, because a lot more people come to the Flathead than are just in Montana. Like Yellowstone and the Flathead are going to be the hot spots for tourism.
The roof,
sure. I'd rather own 4 dispensaries in the Flathead than one here and one Missoula, This is the place to be.
Yeah, well, between Glacier Park, like you said, Whitefish Mountain, Flathead Lake, it's like
this whole valley.
Flathead Valley is the cornerstone to all those things. It's like,
and it's such a rad place.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah,
that's my vision.
Oh, I love it. You just live in a bowl.
Yep.
When I was a kid, I used to be like absolutely terrified of tornadoes, but I was so stoked I lived in Flathead because I would just look around and see all the mountains, and I was like, these motherfuckers protecting me right now.
Yeah, you're good.
There's nothing that'll kill you here.
There's no crazy.
I think I've seen a few black widows.
I mean, Yellowstone would fuck us up if that exploded, but besides that, there's no real crazy natural disaster, no real crazy earthquakes. Like, yeah, it's a chill place to live.
And people can argue the grizzly bear, but like, come on.
That's you going to find it.
Yeah,
like, exactly. Yep.
There's some stories and there's definitely some videos of people getting absolutely wrecked. And they were being like precautious, but it's like you're more likely to get eaten by a shark than you are to get eaten by a grizzly bear.
Yeah. So I got a quick question. So like, what made you get into the cannabis industry? Because I know you were doing filming before this, but what made you get into cannabis?
Man, so many things about the cannabis industry are exciting. Aside from the plant, which in its own right is incredible. And I didn't know that, right? Because you can't know that unless you go and look at it from all these different lenses. Like there's the culture lens, there's the usability lens, but from a medicinal and a scientific perspective, like this plant is crazy with how much it has going on. And nobody knew this 30 years ago. I suppose, a couple scientists did, but like the public lexicon did not know how complex this plant was. So the more you learn, the more excited you get. And what got me into it, in 2017, I took a job working for Rob Dyrdek's company, Street League Skateboarding. We're basically a television network for street skateboarding. And all these pro athletes were taking CBD. And half of our company was taking CBD. And I was like, what is this, weed that doesn't get you high? And that sounds crazy right now because everybody knows what CBD is, right? Your grandma knows what CBD is, probably better than we do. But years ago, nobody knew what this stuff was. And every professional athlete was taking this because it's anti-inflammatory. It's got all these health benefits. And I was like, well, my mom should sell this out of her hair salon. So I packaged it up and sent it up here. And all of her clients, she's been doing it a long time. So elderly clientele, but all these little old ladies and old men were like, oh yeah, we buy it from Canada. They were already taking it. So I was like, oh, wow, maybe Montana's ready for cannabis. And I just saw it. I knew it was, and it is going to be the future, right? And as much as I'm sitting here drinking a beer, I love alcohol. Right. Being a Montanan, like we grew up on this stuff. I was drinking beer at 14. My parents had me join sports to keep me out of trouble, and we became the coolest people in high school, and we were throwing the biggest parties. But we drank a lot of alcohol.
Totally.
And it's ruined some of my friends' lives. Like it hasn't, thank God, like hasn't hurt me at all that I know of. But I will admit that, like, if I can give people's livers a break and we can replace the cocktail, at least a percentage of time, that's exciting to me. And it's a different experience.
Yeah,
it's
almost like an Amsterdam coffee shop or something experience.
And what I think is cool, so a lot of my customers come in, the first thing out of their mouths when they walk in the door is, what's your highest potency? Okay, cool. I've got that for you. But what I like is this microdose, social dose, like 5 milligram edible or even a beverage where, it's like having a couple beers. Like it's loose. Yeah. You're getting that hint of that experience, but it's not putting you on a couch and making you go to sleep. To me, that's exciting.
Endurance over just getting blasted into space.
Nothing would make me happier than to roll up 100 joints of our critical cheese, which is the most euphoric, like happiest strain we carry, and take that up to Big Mountain for New Year's and pass that around and watch people just absolutely have the time of their lives.
That sounds amazing.
So I know that was a long-winded answer, but like on everything, my shop is 1,000 feet away from where I went to grade school at Smith Valley. My teachers drive by, my old teachers, like my community's there. I looked through a lot of different lenses before I decided I could open up a cannabis dispensary in my hometown, in the building that my mom owns. And it just passed every one of those checks. And except for like a couple little things that, would bum me out to talk about here. But like, let's be real. Like, it's a drug. It's a drug.
Totally.
And I've never for once forgot that that's what it is. I always had in my head this was a recreational play. Yes, it's medicine. Great, cool. So is cocaine.
Yeah.
This is a recreational drug. So that never escaped me. But even with that being the target, it's still passed muster to me. And I thought this was a good idea, like business wise, socially, like for all of it. I just think it's time, and there we go. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Within, I guess, the industry, like, what would you want to change within the industry the most? And then I guess on top of that, what do you enjoy the most about the industry? So just those two.
Okay, what I enjoy the most, I mean, it's hard not to have fun in this. What do you like about being in there and being around it?
Shoot, being a sponge, getting all the knowledge, because like I said, like when we were doing the interview, like I was like, well, I just want to know more about the industry because I went in with very limited knowledge, but at the same time, trimming and all of that stuff. It's like just learning, being around the plants, getting to know, like when I went for that meeting and everything, and just hearing all the guys talk about, what has to do with taxes. And is it Jeremy, the grower?
Which one? Which grower?
I thought there was only one grower at that meeting. At the very far end of that table.
Harry Carey. Yeah, Harry Carey.
Okay, that was way off. Sorry.
Well,
Harry.
That's probably Jeremy,
if he's listening. But anyway, no, but yeah, like even listening to him, how he's like kind of like a horse without a
carriage. Is that what he said? I'm a horse, carriageless horse, or a horseless carriage.
Yeah, exactly, because he doesn't have like a
carriage.
Yeah, but because he was like, because he said, he's a grower, but he doesn't have, a dispo or anything like that. Yeah. So it's kind of tough. So it's kind of cool to kind of just, my favorite part about it is just all the knowledge and goes into it.
And dude, I've been fairly like, what was the word? Anyway, I'm sorry. I've been distracted, like building the building and stuff, because I want to show you all this stuff, because the more you learn, the funner it is, and the more you get exposed to, like, the cooler it is.
Oh, no. Just today, you were saying, like, let's do some moon rocks. I was like, I'll wait a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever.
We're gonna
like,
make some moon rocks, and then we'll get that lab up. I want to
see the process.
Here, so.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's a great process. That's what I was curious about. Because you're allowed to have 2 plants right now, right? Or 4?
Is it 4? It might be 4 per household max. Yeah, it might be 2
it's
per
2
person.
per individual, 4 per household. That sounds right.
That's it. Yeah. That's 2 per person with a max of 4 per household. Yeah,
because the house, I just got a house a couple years ago, and living in there, right when it turned legal, I have like a perfect little room in my basement. I feel like that would be fairly easy to climate control.
Yeah.
And I was curious on like how easy, like I know it's going to take like some TLC and some time and love, but like, is it hard to like just start a little home grow of just a couple plants?
It's so easy, and like watch me slip my own wrists over this. But no, like it's a plant and it will grow. Now, when I started this business, I hired a grower, and I'm not going to say his name, but I always like to put this asterisk on it. Like, I don't say his name because he paved the way for this industry to be here. And I was sure that I could grow weed because I had done the book knowledge, right? Because I read and I researched. I knew I could grow weed. I didn't know I could grow sellable weed. So anybody can grow.
That's the
marijuana.
difference. Is like if I can grow it versus growing good weed.
Exactly. Yeah. It's going to grow. It's going to yield you something. And what have you got to lose? I mean, there's a little bit of a equipment cost to it, but no, it's very easy. Now, if you want premium top shelf product, you probably want to go to somebody who's dialed in how to grow this plant and get it to express the way it's meant to express. But I think anybody can grow weed and get
just the process of trial and error, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, and it's gonna be weed at the end of it, right?
Yeah.
Like as long as you follow the steps. But keeping all those the VPD on point and your pH on point and giving it the right amount of food and learning all that stuff, that takes time to learn all that. And it takes so much work. This is why I don't mind telling people it's easy to grow weed, because it's easy, but it takes a lot of work.
Totally.
So nobody's going to do it. Everybody's going to go and buy these home grow setups. Great, awesome. If you can get good at it and then add your knowledge to the industry and make us all better, great. That just means I have to learn more and grow better
that's
products.
Exactly
so
why
I
didn't do it, is because it was such a time-consuming process.
And it is. So, but you know what? It's also fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. So if people do it and they can get product out of it, awesome. More power to you. But they're always going to come to us because,
you've been doing it.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a
we're
good
doing
product.
it.
It's convenient.
I've spent $100,000. Probably more than that on grow equipment. So we can do a few things that your home grower can't do.
Totally.
But that doesn't mean that they can't grow like some pretty rockin' product themselves.
But on the other hand, like you were saying, I think it was at the meeting or maybe at work one day, but you were saying some of these bigger dispensaries, they have like tumblers that like trim the weed for them. But if you hand trim it, the product will come out better. Obviously, if you hand trim it,
Totally.
like that's going to be the best way to do it. It takes more man effort, like more time, all that stuff. But
that's one of the trippiest things to me about this industry is even the really, really major farms still hand trim, and it is so much effort. Like you think like the more efficient you get, the more the machines can do the work, but like you have to hand trim, and even these big companies, they just bust people in and they put them in this room, and they they have a job, and it takes them months and months to do it, and you spend a lot of money and time doing it, but that's how you get the best product. And I wish that wasn't so, because that's the most tedious, time-consuming part of the whole thing, but that's what you got to do. And
is trimming it like just for like the beauty of it, or does it actually benefit the plant?
So you've got your nug, right? Like it's let's see, like a pine cone, but there's all these sugar leaves coming out of the middle of that pine cone. That is plant matter. There is some trichomes on it. The inside the trichome is the cannabinoids, which is going to get you high and add to that effect. So there is some of that on there, but those leaves are basically like taking a piece of grass and smoke it. It's going to be really harsh smoke. It's not going to taste good.
Okay.
So what we try and do is leave only the flower. So you want to trim the majority of that green leafy material off your bud, but it still has trichomes. So it's not wasted. You can still tumble that off and make something else out of it, but nobody wants to smoke that.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Never
So
had it
when-
all broken down like that. That's very cool.
Yeah. So and then taking all of those leaves off of it and then tumbling that, is that what you would make like moon rocks and dabs out of?
When you tumble it, you're going to get a pile of keef,
Yep.
which is the trichome heads. And it's fun because you get like inches deep and you can, you put your glove on, you can pick it up with a credit card. And it's like, it's just
a fat
it's that,
stack
you know,
of
those things you watch on Instagram, like the oddly satisfying stuff. That's what it is. When you slide a credit
nice
card
little
through
crystals in
like
it.
moon sand.
3 inches of keef, it's like,
Just
wow.
The
Yeah,
best
moon
beach,
sand.
the best beach you've ever been on.
Yeah, for real.
That'd be
That
nuts.
is incredible.
So out of that keef, you can make a lot of stuff. We squish it into rosin, which is
Okay,
like
yeah.
a concentrated
So you,
oil,
like,
and then
heat
from
press it?
there, which is
yeah.
ridiculously hard.
I've tried to make some with a flat
Ridiculously
iron
hard.
before. And it was trash.
yeah. It's tricky. They say it's an art form, and man, I mean,
One of my buddies, they figured it out a little bit, and just even with the little flat iron, he could make some like fairly decent stuff. And I was like, that's very impressive. Every time I would try it would just be burnt and fucking disgusting. I wouldn't even risk smoking it. Just parchment paper.
What is like the process of creating a new strain?
Oh, that's literally my next question.
so what? The laziest way to make a strain is to just have a male plant, strain A, pollinate female plant, strain B. And your offspring is going to have some of the characteristics of A and some of the characteristics of B. And if you're the first person that's ever crossed those, you get to name it. But for whatever reason, like this plant is not stable, so it can hermaphrodite out on itself. It can reproduce asexually. So whenever it encounters stress, if it's a female plant, it can grow pollen sacs or pollen pods, which we call bananas or nanners. And one of those little motherfuckers can pollinate your garden and give you seeds on all your plants. So you really shouldn't be crossing your plants unless you plan to do that for a couple of generations and get these strains stable. And so the really premier breeders, that's what they do. They work on this and work on it and work it and crossbreed and crossbreed and crossbreed it until they get a stable plant that isn't going to herm out in the middle of a grow. And you can, unfortunately, like,
What is herming out?
herming out is when you've got a feminized seed and you've got a female plant, which should produce your flowers. A male plant, it's not going to produce any flowers. You're not going to smoke it. It's only going to produce pollen. So we throw our male plants away when we find them, unless you're going to breed with it. But a female plant that's not stable is going to herm out on you at the first sign of stress. So a temperature swing of more than 10 degrees, any light differences. It's, in a flowering period, it's supposed to be 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness. If that gets interrupted, grows a dick.
Grows a dick. So
grows
it's
a
just a
dick.
him, her. A herm.
It's
I
a
love
shim.
that.
And
You
and
like
we don't want
quarantined,
those.
you quarantined a plant before, right?
Yeah, because
that would be the process, right?
you don't want it spreading that pollen. Like
Exactly,
the plants that hermed was our huckleberry hoe, and they were so beautiful, right? Like that huckleberry hoe is incredible, but it started herming out. But I was only a week away from harvest, so the risk of it doing something was, it's there, but I didn't want to waste a week 7 plant. So we quarantine it and make sure that even if it fritzes out and self-pollinates, there may be some seeds in it, but it's not going to ruin a garden with 140 plants.
And that's what it would just like herm out the rest of the garden if it were to spread.
Good question. In my experience, it does seem to kind of like, it's like a tag in wrestling, like it'll pass from one to the other. But no, technically it pollinates, it creates pollen, but that pollen, you got all these fans blowing around your garden.
You
that
just don't
pollen
want
will
that
spread,
in like
and
the family of the
every
longevity
flower
of the plant.
it touches will seed out. It doesn't matter about the future generations, because all those plants die and we grow fresh from seed. But if that pollen spreads, every plant it touches is going to grow seeds. We don't want seeds in our weed. So if that blows around the room, it could be a catastrophic loss for us.
Okay, that makes sense.
So herms are bad. Breeders make stable genetics and sell those, but some people like trying to get rich quick or trying to put in half the work. They sell unstable seeds. We buy them as the public and grow them and end up with some real problems or some shitty genetics. And I've got some growers that I really respect. I really like their product, but like I can't grow their shit. I got one of them in our lineup right now. Like I like the guy, I like his company, I like his business, but I can't grow the shit because it's a huge risk. And every time I do, it herms out. And I've tried it a couple of different times.
Bad. That's a good sticker.
Herms are bad. Yeah. I don't.
Herms are bad.
There's not a lot of places you can say that these days, but like the cannabis industry is one. Like herms are bad.
I think that's why it would make such a good sticker. It's just right. If you're in the right industry, it's great.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
You know?
If not, you're just extremely offensive.
Yeah.
Right. This guy, Canorado Genetics, I've always gotten solid results out of them.
Nice. So I got a quick question about, I guess, right there, marketing. So for marijuana, like marketing your product, whether it be online or whatever it is, how do you try to market your product now versus when it's recreational in 2022?
Yeah, well, this conversation I just got off of before I walked in the door. That's what we're talking about. So the state is going to clamp down hard. They don't want this seen anywhere. They look at it as a necessary evil. They know it's out there. They know people want it, like hardcore,
get their cut of it.
And they want their cut, but they don't want to have to see it. Like as long as that is behind closed doors. So we don't even know. I might have to take the website down or at least amend it to have like some, we're supposed to make best attempts to keep anybody who's not 21 off of there. I wish we had an Instagram account because we don't. Definitely don't look up Montana_Canna_co because you won't find anything.
Not this, right?
Because
here.
if I did, I'd have to take that down maybe next year. But no, it's tricky because, again, you want to stay compliant, but like we're trying to.
They won't even allow you to have a social media account?
Yeah.
Wow. So like your marketing is mostly at that point just word of mouth then.
Man, and we can't even brand like our packaging. We can't even brand our. There's not a product in the world that can't be branded. Like name one.
Yeah,
apples,
seriously.
bananas, Clorox bleach. Like every
even
product
alcohol.
has
It's
a
on
brand.
the side of semis driving down the highway, which is just ironic.
But we're not. We're supposed to have plain packaging with a black and white label with black text on a white label print.
Kind of
no
like,
mark.
kind of like the cigarette stuff.
Multiple.
But so like, a cigarette label without
they need to
the
cover
colors.
at least 30% of every viewable side of their product
It's
with
supposed to be
a warning label.
A test label, like your potency tests and the information. It's supposed to be informational. I guess the best way to describe it, it should look like a prescription label on a plastic bottle.
It looks like nutrition.
Totally.
Nutrition facts. Basically,
how are we supposed to stand out in a horizontal market? Like, let's say we're growing the best weed in the state and we're selling it in like 5 different, like not my dispensaries, but other people's, and it's on a shelf
exactly
next
the
to
same
somebody who's spraying
else.
it with pesticides. Like, there's no way to differentiate those products unless you're reading the fine print. That's pretty frustrating, but
wow, that is.
You just got to let it roll off, and hopefully that'll change in a couple of years.
Yeah, and that's totally. Do you know if it's like that in Colorado and places like that, or is it you're allowed to? You can throw up billboards and do whatever.
Yeah, and the packaging, which I see why they hate it. Like it looks like it's targeting kids. Like it's
like
That's also
crazy
gummy
sold on the
edibles
street,
and
too,
stuff
like
like that.
that's
cereal.
interesting,
All of
like-
it looks like cereal boxes. And
It's
like,
just like
runts,
that's
they're
also
like selling on the streets
Yup.
and like some
Oh, yeah.
like terrible weed as runts and like
that's
yeah,
also
you can
people
go on
up.
Amazon and buy the Runts
Oh, yeah,
packaging.
all
Like,
of it.
we could put
Yeah.
our stuff in that.
Yeah.
it's
And just reseal it.
interesting to me though.
Just
It's
get a
so
vacuum
crazy.
sealer, reseal it, and then sell whatever
Well,
trash, bud.
that's what people do. That's what happens. So that's why
Well,
you got
street
like the
dealers,
booth
yeah.
patrol, like trying to find out. But yeah, you like buy from somebody you trust, or go into a dispensary
yeah.
and pay that
all that
tax.
silly labeling and funny designs. That's just like part of the culture of it, though. It's like
Mhm.
beer is argumentatively the same thing. Like I've seen beer
Totally.
with like flying unicorns and donkeys and all these
Nowadays,
crazy,
I mean-
beautiful
Oh, yeah.
things. It's like,
all the
Look at
IPAs.
this shit.
come on, yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Tell me that doesn't look like a soda. Like,
That looks like a fairy tale, right? Like,
Yeah.
doesn't that look like
Led
like
Zeppelin.
yeah,
Wicked
totally.
Witch, you
It's
know?
like it just narrowing
Hansel
down
and Gretel?
there's just some deep rooted dislikes about it. But like you said, hopefully just let it wash over. Hopefully it'll change in the future. But I heard, I read something that Cookies was going through some dispute about their labeling and looking like they're like trying to market towards younger generations and kids.
here in Montana, or
I'm not exactly sure. I think it
Yeah.
was here in Montana. Now that hearing all this now, that's just what I assume, but
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
entirely sure. I just read a short little thing about it.
Yeah, I don't know those guys personally down in Missoula, Double Dogs and Power Moves.
Mm-hmm.
But I respect who they are. I don't know if I love what they're doing, but you know what? No hate. Like they're making it happen. I'd probably do the same. In fact, I would do the same in their shoes. But
Totally.
I know that there's a couple Montana companies that are single-handedly responsible for the shit that we're now going to have to eat. And yes, they don't like some senator was driving on the whatever with his family, and his 6-year-old daughter's like, "Oh, I want a cookie," and that pissed them off.
Oh,
Oh,
my
and they're
gosh.
like, "Nope."
Did you hear about the guy in Florida that got arrested for having "I eat ass" on the back of his truck?
I saw that.
He
But
had-
you know,
I saw
Florida.
Sounds
But
like
he
Florida.
had, it was like the same situation. The cop basically pulled him over and he's like, "What if my daughter saw that?" And he's like, "I'm sorry, but it's still like freedom of speech. It's my right to be able to do this and portray that." And eventually he got let off with it scot-free, but I just feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with marijuana, especially the fact that it's legal.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the dance we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
what can you get away with and what can they, legally restrict? But yeah, I heard that specific story and many others. But yeah, they don't like cookies because kids want to eat cookies.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's fucked.
I guess.
Kids shouldn't eat that many
But
cookies anyway.
I mean, that's a cool brand name.
That is. Cookies is
mean,
dope.
It's a cool brand name. And, Cookies and Jungle Boys are like the biggest marijuana companies.
Yeah.
I suppose it like MedMen and whatever, Curaleaf, but
Yeah.
like those guys
With
suck.
those guys are considered tier 9?
Which one?
Does it matter? Like,
What's the
For-
max tier?
In Montana, they're even going above a tier 9, but like again, like nobody had a need to be above a tier 9 before, or even like a tier 5. I think there was 2 companies in the state that were that top tier. Now they're having to add new tiers because there's not enough product in the state. So these people that were able to do 10,000, 20,000 square feet football fields, whatever, they now have to be able to grow more. So they've added tiers in this most recent iteration.
Interesting.
It's kind of nuts how many people like came out of the woodworks of like, yeah, I smoke weed now that it's legal.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I've seen so many people admit it now, or like
Mhm.
that just were like completely against it on the outside.
Do you want to know probably like the second biggest advance in business we had was people coming over from the hair salon. Like my mom's clients for 20 years, and they're like, "Hey, I'll smoke weed."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I gotta just
Now
stop
it's easy
once.
to get. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't gotta go get it from some kid in
Yeah.
high school.
And it's the reverse too. Like some people will come into the actual dispensary looking for some CBD products, and it's like we have like limited CBD products and more shifted towards THC products.
Yeah, on our side.
On our side. And then, on her side, it's, she has some, like a lot of CBD products.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if we don't have it here, I can always send you right next door.
Yeah.
She had some CBD dog treats.
Yeah, she got dog treats. She's got coffee. She's got a whole bunch of stuff we don't have. We have
I know a lot of folks
bombs
that give those dogs their little treats. Those little CBD, and they do
actually,
wonders for like hyperactive dogs and dogs that are like very panicky.
It does wonders, and it wins the hearts of all the all the little old lady conservatives that think this is the devil's lettuce, and they're like, well, you shouldn't smoke it, but Fido can have it.
Yeah, my dog can have it.
Or even they'll use CBD, but won't want anything to do with marijuana.
Yeah, it's like you said earlier, you put it perfectly. It's just the dance we're doing. It's so interesting, but it's very exciting too, and very cool to be living in an age where we are on the cusp of all of this legalization, to where it's a lot harder to get put in jail for a ridiculous amount of years for just having an eighth on you.
Yeah, that's just progress, right? Like we can all agree that
totally,
like, that was never okay to do that to people.
Yeah,
no, whether they were breaking the law. Yeah, I mean, it was illegal, but that was
never been illegal.
It should never have been
first
illegal.
place.
No, exactly. But I think it should never have been illegal. But the fact that we are reaching these new levels in more areas, people are getting released for just ridiculous crimes. Is like that's a win for sure. And like now, just on the back end, like having to do all these weird legal dances and really finalize making it socially acceptable seems like the bigger challenge almost.
As much of a pain in the ass as it is to run a business and stay compliant, that's what I tell myself is like, hey,
totally.
We're growing marijuana legally, and like Grayson has to put up with some of the pain in the ass things, like compliance stuff we have to do in metric, or like he'll ask me a question like, hey, why is this like this? And dude, I don't know. And
welcome to the game.
I understand it's frustrating that he should be able to lean on me to provide answers, but sometimes it's like, dude, do it like this. I may change my mind next week, but like whenever you get frustrated, just realize we're selling legal weed, and next year's gonna be bananas. So
that's exciting.
Well, that's extremely cool. I think it's super cool what you're doing. Like you said with us earlier, I mean, you're just a part of the fight of like pushing this and making it like a more acceptable substance, which I think it definitely needs to be. Definitely don't abuse it and overuse it or whatever.
It's a drug.
But it's still a drug, but also it's
you can abuse caffeine too, but like, I mean,
you don't go to jail for drinking a coffee.
For sure.
Yeah. So what would be your favorite strand to grow? And then what would be your favorite strand? That you have in the store.
Yeah, you know this. So you answer on my behalf. And if you're...
No. I don't know, man. I'm asking you for the people.
Okay, everybody listen up because go ahead.
And then also, what is your favorite strand that you've tried?
Okay, cool.
Out of the strands that we have at Montana Canna.
Okay, cool. 3-part question. I started off growing 10 strains, which quickly went up to 15, and they were all just like, I couldn't differentiate them. They were not necessarily hard to grow, but it was just the process. And then we bought the Canorado Sunday Float, root beer crossed with Sunday Driver. And as it was growing, you knew this was different. Even in, maybe not in the veg state, but like after a couple months of growing, when you get into flower, like this is different. It grows so well. It grows so nice. And then harvesting it was so much easier because it was just these fat, solid nugs, and they were completely covered in trichomes, and it was greasy and smelly and wonderful. And then we started selling it. And people were coming from Polson and East Glacier, and they had to try it. And I've never had so many people give so many compliments saying, this is the best weed I've tried in 30 years. And some, like more than 2 said, this is the best weed I've ever smoked. So Sunday Float, if I didn't have to have a menu, that's what I would grow. I am hopeful that some of these new strains are as good or close to our Sunday Float, but that is hands down the best one. My favorite, the one I've tried, is the Critical Cheese, because I don't need no 32% potency. Put me up to Mars.
I was about to say the Sunday floats, each harvest, I've looked at them. They're pretty high. Potency.
Yeah. So. I don't need that. Like I said, I'm more like, hey, let somebody ease. I'm targeting PTA moms. I want people that are like, hey, I just want to replace that martini. I want to get a little goofy and have a good time and have a different experience. So like our 22% Critical Cheese that you can smoke a lot of and have a great time.
22% still isn't terrible.
No, like that's huge.
Yeah,
but this day and age, I mean, nobody will even buy anything that's in the teens. So.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. That's true. Especially if you're going to a dispensary, you're like, I want the craziest shit you got.
That's what. That's what they kick the door in. What's your highest?
Send me to Mars.
There's this one guy
talk to you about the cheese.
There's this one guy who comes in all the time, and he's just, what did I have last time?
I know
that was so good. Like, and I'm like,
smoked it so hard you forgot.
There's no way I can ever pull up what you got last time, so I don't know.
You could control like metric 500 lines per page. Control F. Look up his medical ID. Pick it and.
Hard to bluff with your boss here.
I'll call you out on that.
Hey, but they got to account for every gram in that.
He did say 500 plus pages, so it would take a second.
Yeah.
Command F,
I was like,
Command F.
But I was like, you know the guy. I know
the guy. Yeah, because he says it every damn time.
He's like,
what'd I get last time?
What's the highest potency? And I'm like, I got you.
No. He says, what's your highest sativa? You're like, this. He's like, what else you got? I'm like, an indica, motherfucker. He's like, I'll take that indica. Like, you just ask for it next time.
So the indica and sativa, for those who don't know, what's the difference between the two? And then could you break down CBD?
Sure, absolutely. Like, you want high level or you want scientific? I'll do high level first. Sativa's daytime, indica's nighttime. CBD is the non-psychoactive cannabinoid, of which there's like 18 in this plant. We only really focus on 2. THC gets you high, CBD does not, but still does a lot of those benefits that THC does. But there's like CBG, CBN, all this other stuff that I guarantee scientists are going to isolate these compounds and they're going to make that into concentrate, and you're going to be able to treat so many new diseases off of that in a pill form or whatever. So, but sativa and indica strains grew in different parts of the world. Indica is this little shrubby bush. Sativa is this tall, skinny. Sativas are known to come from like Africa. Indicas come from like the Himalayas, Afghanistan, stuff like that. As we've been crossbreeding and making hybrids for so many generations, the modern breeders don't really even use those terms, because even if something was 90% sativa, which should be a daytime energizing strain, and 10% indica, your nighttime, make you sleepy and tired, all that, it may be that the indica part of that, which is only 10%, is the most dominant effect that comes across. So really the two terms are being less and less used today, which is kind of sad, but we're more focused on the effect of the specific strains, which is what we're all looking for anyway. We're trying
in your
to
business
classify
then,
that.
do you just do you have people that test it yourself and then other folks, and then also are you hiring for that position?
So I let somebody else do the work for us, right? Like Leafly. Leafly has aggregated reviews in the thousands for all these strains, except for the very new ones. And so we can take that aggregated review, like 1,000 people smoked this and left a review and said it makes you euphoric versus relaxed. So we can put those results on there. Now, everybody's different. Every body's different. So like we as the bud tenders try and educate people, hey, most people have this effect from this.
But it wouldn't be insane if you had another one.
Or you have a high tolerance and you're going to need something else. Or you have a low tolerance and you're going to need something else.
There's like a specific strain that we carry. It's called like the Doctor. So like that one is like, if you have pain or something like that, chronic pain, that'll work for that.
The Doctor, we've grown it 5 or 6 times and it's always been like 17%. We just hit 21 with that, which is a huge difference.
Out of the teens.
That's the new harvest?
Yeah,
Nice.
this last one.
Right on.
Yeah. People probably like it more at 17. I don't know.
I
but
have gotten some people asking for like pre-rolls of the doctor.
There's like 60 of them far into that display case.
Nice.
We got a bunch.
Sweet.
Yeah. Doctor smells like chocolate.
So do you foresee in the future then, like, I guess since we are fading away with so much crossover, that's how it'll be labeled in the future, just by people testing it, giving their reviews on it, and then being like, predominantly this is sativa, predominantly this is indica.
I think you will have you will always have that legacy descriptor. So whether it's a sativa or not, people will say, oh, this is like a sativa or this is like an indica because it makes you sleepy. But no, I think that those, even today, I don't think those are really worthwhile terms to use. And I could get a million people telling me I'm wrong on that.
No, that's understandable. I've heard both ways on it, so it's interesting to hear that take.
But I do like that African Uzi that we grow. That's a sativa, like hands down.
And what's the percentage? Is that like a 70? 70%?
Dude, nobody even knows. Like percentage sativa versus indica, we don't know.
Okay.
But you can tell by the way it grows. You get these long top colas, like 3 feet long, like crazy, tall, skinny plant, really finicky, not a lot of personality, but people love it. And it is, aside from our Blue Dream, probably the most sativa plant we grow.
When you're testing the potency level of like the THC, is it like you take multiple samples from multiple different plants and then you just kind of grab the average amongst those? Because can't that level differentiate between parts of the plant that you clip?
Bane of our existence. I love our lab. We're using Stillwater. I know the guys at Fidelity Diagnostic will use them at some point. Actually, I've promised that we'll put our first concentrates over to them. I love the lab people. I don't mind paying a lot of money for their services. I think it's a worthwhile thing to test your product for pesticides, heavy metals, mold, blah, 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 and potency. But we can swing wildly on our test results. If somebody comes in and takes the top cola, the one that's sitting right next to the light, it's going to test higher THC. And if they take a bottom one, it's going to test a lot lower.
So in theory, would you just get the median of those two numbers and then that's your kind of average potency level of the plant?
No, because when you harvest, you cut off all your buds aside from, and they, your top colas are typically bigger, and the testers know, like, they're pretty good. They know which ones to look for. They're not going to grab some shitty little larfy bud from your bag, but all that gets trimmed and put into bags. So when the tester comes in, he has to grab a blind random sample. So I can't like set stuff aside for him to pick from. Right? Like that's my choice stuff because I may have not just sprayed that with pesticide or whatnot. Yeah. So he comes in and just grabs a random sample. So he goes into my bag, picks out a couple things. And yes, he does look at them and says, okay, like this looks good. I'll take this one. He takes your best buds.
Of course he does.
Yeah. But so for every 5 pounds, they have to take a sample and they have to take a percentage of your harvest. So if I've got a whole room full of, Red Bulls or Mellows, he's going to come in and take a whole bunch of samples from that harvest batch. Every 5 pound harvest batch, they have to take a sample from. But no, they're not taking multiple samples from one strain. Typically, if I've got 5 pounds of a product, he's just going to take one piece of that. And I live with those test results, good or bad. Live with them till we're out of that product, unless I want to test it again. But it's expensive.
Interesting.
Like you don't want to be testing your product.
Is that something you hope to see change? That you can like get that accuracy level a little more dialed in, or is it something that's like, I mean, it's whatever.
I'll pick my battles. No, I think that we as a industry and as a consumer should care a lot less about the numbers and more about what that bud smells like, what it looks like, and what it does to you.
Yeah.
It's just, that's what I find so interesting about it is because I've heard that it's like not exactly 100% accurate, this reading, but like you said, people are just busting in the door asking immediately for the highest potency when it's like he could have lucked out and just grabbed that top nug.
You want to know one of the coolest things about buying weed? Toucan Sam, follow your nose. That's it. It's as simple as that. You go in, you ask to smell that bud. If it smells good to you, that's your body. Like if something smells off, even if it's gas, if you don't like that gas, that that fire, like chronic, if that's not attractive to you, that's gonna give you an experience you don't want. More often than not, if that smell is attractive to you, you're gonna have a good experience on that weed. Cheese is a good example.
Boom.
Somebody might smell that and be like, "Oh, it stinks." Don't buy that strain. Your body is not going to like that terpene profile. There's so many complexities.
That is such an interesting way to look at it. I love that.
It's so interesting and complex, but it's as simple as that. Smell your weed. If it smells good, you're probably going to enjoy it. If it smells bad, even if everybody in the room's like, this is the fire.
Treehouse exclusive. You hear that, everybody? Just trust your nose.
Trust your nose, not anybody else's nose.
Sense is like the least thought about, but probably one of the most important for...
Well, look at how much other species rely on it. It's insane.
The whole animal species, that's their sense that they use.
So I'd like to. I mean, the numbers are something. It's not nothing for sure. But people, we hear all day long. People like, oh, I got way higher on something that tested at 21, and then I went and bought this $100 blah 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 from Top Shelf whatever, and it was 33%, and man, didn't do anything to me. So,
Yeah, and I've also gone to. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I've also gone to like Washington and places that are legal, and they do have certain same strands, and they have mid shelf, and then they have top shelf. So do you think that Montana, or at least the Valley, any of these dispensaries are going to try to follow that trend? Or how do you think that Montana dispensaries are do you think they're going to try to follow trends that are already legal? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, great question. And as a business owner, that's the game we play. We have to follow what the industry is doing. Grayson and I, we sell Montana cannabis flower, and it's all one price. It's all quality indoor. But there's top colas and there's middle of the plant. We probably could differentiate those between top shelf but then what, mids and lows?
Yeah.
I just like to think that we grow really quality weed and we sell it all at a fair price. And that fair price is slightly lower than what the dispensaries in town are doing. And I'm not doing that to cut anybody's throat, but I'm out in a rural community.
Yeah.
So that's my business plan. That's my marketing. But
it's just a matter of the way you want your shelves to display and how you want to market your
there's people that go into a liquor store and they're going to buy that top shelf just because it costs more. Why do I not want to appeal to that customer? So we probably have to have a top shelf product, but it just doesn't feel right to me. But
that's cool.
I thought about doing certain strains, like our Sunday Float should sell for more, but I want people buying that. I want them to experience that.
I don't think I've heard of a lot of shops which is it's one price. It's this is what shit costs around here. It's all good.
I know that a lot of them do that, but
no, that's really cool. I've never heard about that, and I think that's really cool. Granted, I may not be as versed as most, but
some people come in and they like, hey, sell me something for a huge discount. Give me your shit. And I'm like, dude, I don't want anybody smoking anything.
I don't got no Reggie in here, bro. Exactly. This is all fire. What do you mean?
Real friends don't let other friends smoke.
Exactly. Man, we got a lot of good stuff. Let me sell you some good stuff. So, and I want people share. This is a social thing. So, if I sell you some whack boof and you go share it with somebody and you got Montana Canna sticker on it, I just don't want to do that.
Yep.
And not that I don't feel for somebody that needs to save some money. If they wanted some shake, I suppose we could work something out and I'd set some aside from you on the next harvest. But I'd rather do that if they're going to make an edible out of it or something.
Yeah,
if you're going to smoke a flower,
Yep.
It's an experience,
It really is. Even from breaking it down and throwing it in the ground, anything, the whole process of it is just an enjoying process. It's the same as you said multiple times, making a martini. The process of making the drink or making a whiskey ginger can be therapeutic.
It's almost as effective as the actual act of drinking that drink or smoking the smoke.
100%.
It's that anticipation, that preparation, that excitement.
I love it. I love rolling joints. It is just a fun thing to do. Just to you're going to get a little stoned from it. You're just like at peace with it. Your main focus is just making it look pretty and making sure it's going to smoke. Like, it is the whole process of it.
I think that's probably why, like you say, like trimming is more like deemed better just amongst people, because like it's like the idea of like a home cooked meal or like
you said it,
produce or like anything like that. It's like there is something when there's a human being involved and caring about it in the process of that, like whether it's spiritual or whatever you think it is, there's something behind like you growing your own tomato tastes better. That's the whole, your mom cooking you a meal tastes better than fucking McDonald's. Like, and some of y'all are smoking McDonald's out here. So go to Montana, Canada, get that premium.
No, I really
Nice
appreciate that. And I do believe that. And I think you have to look at your own life experiences to either agree or disagree. But, my life experience has taught me that like some human element can make or break that.
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy there is somebody like you in the weed industry in my hometown doing the right thing and the good thing for the product. That's extremely cool. You have like all the best values of it at heart, and just the sole fact that you sell everything for just a really good, reasonable price. And it's just like to share the product and get the word out that it is okay. It's still a drug, but it's beneficial. And I think that's so cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you guys ever come check out the shop, it's so,
I would love to.
Like if you do, like up on the walls, it's got all the strands, like pictures, and then just, education about it. So it's like, it's got all of the,
that's huge.
Like he was saying, like reviews from Leafly. So like kind of what it will kind of do, and then like all of the effects, and then kind of like, oh, you'll get this percentage of euphoria feeling or a happy, or maybe even if people have gotten online and been like, oh, I feel
kind of like a mood chart for it.
Even if I felt paranoid and they put a review
dry
on
mouth.
there, or dry mouth, same thing. There's a whole chart. So it's like all informational. So it's for, like you were saying, your target market, man. It's like, I mean, you can definitely explain your target market, but it's just like for the PTA moms, man. It's the same people. It's not like
the non-smoking smokers.
Exactly. But at the same time, if you do smoke, you can still come in there and get all that same stuff.
I think informing people about it is the biggest thing. And that's why most people are afraid of it, is just simply the fact that they don't know. They only know all of the bullshit that they've been fed in the past and all the scare tactics that have been used for it. They don't
where you're melting on the couch.
Yeah, and it's like a slight level of paranoia maybe is not a bad thing. It's like maybe that's trying to point your mind in something that you should be reflecting on in your life, or this, that, and the third. It's like the paranoia is there. I'm just letting you know that it may come up. It's like, I just think letting people know and informing your audience and your buyers of your product is huge.
Absolutely.
That's
a lot of
totally
the places
other
I've been into is
yeah.
just like what you said. It's just like, you go in, what's your highest percentages? What's going to fuck me up the most? And then I feel like that's how you get some of these adverse reviews about it, is because it's not laid out like, you might feel like your mouth is super dry. It's the Sahara Desert. Or you might get panicky. You might get worried. But it's like, just reflect and everything will be okay. You're not going to die.
Yeah. One of the coolest things is the different strains have different effects. And I don't know why, but like they all have their own personality and their own expression. We can do a blind smell test. I should have brought a bunch of jars and we could have put it to the test.
That would be amazing.
We'll do another one.
We'll do another. And I do want to say, under that roof, like behind that door, I try and do everything by the book. Like, whether I agree with it or not, under that roof, it is the state's way.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a pain in the ass. More often than not, it's stomachable. But like, we try and be I don't want to be robots, right? Like, when someone comes in and they need us to bend a rule, like we don't, but it's not just a no. Like I try and walk them through why. But, and that's important to say, because weed is a very fun industry. It's a very welcoming industry. Like I'm so excited for next year to like open the doors up to the general public.
Yeah.
But right now, like, don't come in if you don't have a medical card. I'm happy you actually come on in. I'll talk to you all day long, but like, you're not going to walk out of there having
anything.
purchased flower, and that's not how I run Montana Canna, but
that's good,
and
that's very good.
It's what we try and tell Grayson and
Absolutely.
Jamie, Dave, Michelle, like it's guys here. Like,
well, like you said
treat it with
earlier,
the respect
every
it
gram is
demands.
accounted for,
Yeah.
and like you said, you have kids, you have a family, like it's a family business. Like your livelihood is at stake for somebody just wanting to get high. That's not supposed to be.
Yep.
And outside those doors, like it's a completely different story. Not that I'm out, selling stuff on the street. I'm not, but I'm more than like it's just under that roof. It's a different set of rules, and it's the state's set rules, and like whether they're absolutely crazy, and some of them are, we just follow them. But
That's what it takes to be running a
That's what it
weed
takes.
business
Yeah.
and
for real.
the life we live right
Cinch
now.
up the belt for like you said, it is a drug, and you're selling a drug. So
Like you said though,
legally.
but you are selling it though.
But you're
you
selling
are
it, yeah.
selling
Drug.
it. That's
Yeah.
great.
That's
That is
awesome.
That's a
No, yeah.
positive.
huge. That's the biggest thing. But I'm also extremely curious about this graphic novel.
cool.
I would love
Oh,
to.
yeah, I did tell
I'd love
him
to
about
hear a
that.
little bit about it. Mostly just like what the title is of it, and if you illustrated it or who
I should
your
have brought one, man.
illustrator
I'm a
was.
shit. I brought you guys beer. I should have brought the graphic novel.
Oh, we love beer. That's fun.
So, Shake the Lake. My brother, another Kalispell kid here.
Nice.
In 2002, he started a clothing company, Elevated, and Elevated was started right here in the Flathead Valley. And you guys might not have heard of it, but you're here running a clothing shop.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
know your history here. So, we got that brand sold all over the world, and it was an action sports brand which honed in on wakeboarding after a couple of years. Like that's where we found our market, and it was the wake. I mean, wake's not a huge industry. It was bigger back in those early 2000s.
Seems like it's getting pretty big right now.
Yeah, I was going to go to the Olympics, I thought. But we found our niche in the wakeboard industry. So we were a wake clothing company, and Elevated Clothing was the wake clothing company. Now, we couldn't get a lot of sponsored riders on our stuff because they were Red Bull and Hurley and all that. But all the collegiate level kids, and we would follow these pro tours around and vend at those events. And this was all like Arizona, California, like the Sacramento Delta, Lake Las Vegas. And we went to Bullhead City, which is by Reno. And there was thousands of kids. I mean, wake is probably there's skateboarding, right? Which is way more hardcore, but wakeboarding, you're on the water, you've got power boats. It's a mix of like this beautiful athletic agility mixed with the screaming raw horsepower of this monster, boat.
Yeah.
And it's the coolest action sport. And I grew up like riding
really is.
motocross and all that. And it was just like wakeboarding. So we're down there with these thousands and thousands of kids. And there's certainly documentaries, right? Like a lot of people make like wake films, but there was no entertainment content for that industry and for those kids. And we were down there. I was like, why not? This is every sport's got a movie. Skateboarding's got movies. Surfing's got a million movies. Like bobsleds, even like every sport has a movie or a property purely to entertain. And we went and wrote this story for and by and about the people that were around us, like wakeboarders. So Shake the Lake is the story of these 5 friends from untitled nowhere in the Midwest. But it's like this. It's a cool place, right? With cool people. They're just missing that worldview.
Yeah.
Kind of like Montana and Kalispell.
That's the inspiration. Like a solid place with solid people and like enough going on. But this crew finds themselves on the road in search of the endless summer, and they end up in Arizona. And to you guys, this is just the way it is. But to me, like bro culture started in the like early 2000s. You know what bro culture is up here? It's like big lifted trucks and girls with tramp stamps and the dyed hair, like half blonde, half black, half purple.
Gotcha.
It's like rich
Shore,
white trash.
But like Montana.
Exactly. It's like Jersey Shore,
The mullet
but
with
Lake
pit
Havasu.
vipers.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it's money. It's like rich white trash with power boats and lifted trucks and all that. So this crew finds themselves in the heart of bro culture, like fish out of water. These Midwest kids or Pacific Northwest kids out with that type of people. And then they're trying to, like, they meet the girl they haven't seen in years who used to come vacation, and she's grown up into, obviously, right? Like, it's not the highbrow, most intelligent story in the world, but it's got heart.
That's great, though. I love that.
And her dad owns a marina on this lake, and the snobby yacht club's going to shut them down, and they need some help, and they want to turn it into this quiet, fishing town. But these kids are like, wow, this is perfect. This is a perfect place to have a wakeboard event and scene. So they throw this mammoth end of season wake festival and save the marina, and they have to grow up. They have to grow up so and realize this is not all about chasing the endless summer, but in the journey of doing that, they find themselves, they grow up and live happily ever after.
That sounds incredible.
I like that.
So
is it predominantly text or imagery?
Full graphic novel. We wrote it as a screenplay, so it's highly visual in its storytelling. Full cool. Graphic novel.
Did you illustrate it?
170 pages. No, we hired a team of illustrators. Diego and Andrea Mata, brother-sister team. My brother and I wrote it, so it was 2 sets of siblings.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cool. We wrote it, and we designed it and laid it out, and then those guys actually illustrated it. And it's full of really fun wardrobe and really just goofy stuff we'd picked up in our life, living that for real. So
that sounds incredible.
One guy's got a shirt that says Utah sucks. And
yeah, they do.
Is that available anywhere? Or?
Yeah. Oh, so I finished it we finished it November of 2019.
Oh, so fairly recently.
Yeah, and we put it out 2 weeks before COVID shut the world down. Oof. So we had who knows? This could have actually been not a bestseller, but it could have been out there in the world. Yeah. We had a marketing budget, we had people doing stuff, and then all of a sudden, whoa, what's going on in France? Well, what's going on in Italy? There's this disease. Yeah. Nobody gave a shit about anything else in those days. And we came out as the book came out when some guy in Los Angeles drove the train off the tracks to try and sink the Mercy ship that was sitting in the harbor, that hospital ship. And he tried to sink it with a train. I'm like, okay, well, we'll come back.
So
to
much
this.
for the endless summer.
Yeah. So no, it's brand new. It came out
fresh.
to crickets, and then it hasn't done anything since. But it's a brand new thing. So
can you you can get it on Amazon, right? Though.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can get it in a million places, and it does sell a little bit. But ShakeTheLakeComic.com is the website. There's an awesome book trailer that we made. We animated some of the pages and did voiceover. Awesome. And it's not the most polished thing in the world, but
I think some of that rudimentary animation is some of the coolest animation, though, honestly.
Yeah, and it was
I really do like it.
I did it all. Just I've got a little bit of editing chops, and
nice.
it just should have taken more time. But after you've spent weeks and weeks and weeks on something, when you've got a full-time job and you're starting a business and you're running a family,
and editing's not the quickest process in the world.
Eventually you're look, put this thing out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I understand that. Yeah. Well, that's rad. I want to read that. I'm going to get that.
Yeah, well, it's also located at Montana Canna.
Yeah, we sell them out of there. And we've sold a couple out of there, which is always fun.
If you don't have your license, you can go in and get a book.
You can buy CBD,
come out with a book
and a comic book.
A nice you can go in and get
CBD, though.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
That's another I
wanted to get my grandma some a long time ago, but didn't know.
So we have balms, CBD balms that you can buy with no THC content. Tinctures, under the tongue that you can buy if you don't have a card. And then also graphic novels.
Graphic novels.
Do they come with CBD too?
Sold separately.
Sold separately. Good one.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
If you want to send Grayson that trailer too, we can put it in the video.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah,
That'll be right now.
Oh, this is like, damn,
It's
this
cool,
is pretty
right?
sweet, man. Holy shit.
It's almost photorealistic
I
illustration.
love that kind of illustration. This is beautiful,
like a Marvel,
dude. I want to read that
like a Marvel
for sure.
comic book.
I'll bring you guys one. I will drop it
I would love
off
that.
like
That'd be
within the
amazing.
next
So dope.
7 days.
We are
I'll
literally
pop it
here every day,
So dope.
all
Actually-
hours of the day. So, or pass it off to Grayson.
Yeah, Grayson, you take it, you read it, and you pass it around.
Yeah, that would be
Score.
amazing.
Dibs. I get times 2 on it. That's amazing, though. Yeah, the illustration in that, they did a good job.
Yeah, they
And
did.
we met a lot of these pros. So like Rusty Malinowski, he has a little cameo in there, and we just like drew his
Yeah.
likeness, but we got his permission. And this came after we did a television show and got all these brand sponsorships for it. So we came from like a creative background and went out to brands and.
What was the television show?
It's called The Breaks. Life is full of waves. Catch one. And it
Oh,
was
nice.
Entourage on a surfboard about a group of kids coming up through the world of sponsored and competitive surf, and
Kind of like
that-
a Lords of Dogtown type beat.
And they're
okay.
and they're balancing the juxtaposition between life in the spotlight and like life in the waves,
Oh,
like the
nice.
true beautiful part of the sport, and then like the
Yeah.
whoring yourself out for money and product sales and stuff. And it's Entourage on a surfboard, and we made 2 episodes of that and sold it to an online platform that was going to facilitate the production of the rest of a season. And then, as so many things do in like the Hollywood bubble, like
Mhm.
they die without
Seeing the
without
light of
some
day.
insurance of you making it happen. But I spent all my money doing that and all my brother's money. So like we probably had an opportunity to keep it going, but at what cost? Like
Yeah.
you're gonna put your entire life into something.
So, man, you've done quite a few things. You were a filmer for Street League. You've written graphic novels. You've written TV shows. You own a weed company. What else you got in there?
That's what I'm saying.
It sounds like you've been doing
first job out of college. I built like satellite antennas the size of this room.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I would travel
Riveting.
to Australia and built KA band, which at the time was the most advanced system in the world. Like we were blasting stuff 22,000
like radio.
like RF frequencies,
Okay.
higher than radio.
Okay.
And well, it's called radio frequency. So yeah, like radio. But yeah, we were shooting stuff up to the geosynchronous orbit and building these dishes and spectrum analyzers and all that.
Wow.
And I did that.
That was right out of college or high
Yeah,
school?
College.
College,
Yeah.
okay.
I got
Yeah.
blasted. I was standing in front of a dish and it turned on, and yeah, I got blasted. I didn't think I was going to have kids.
What? Just a bunch of the radio waves shot at you?
Yeah, I was
or
up
what?
on a man. So these things are huge, right? So I'm
Yeah.
like 30 feet in the air on a man lift working on the subreflector with a big wrench, like
Yeah.
turning this. And we're in Australia. You're also in front of this dish, every point on there where the sun hits is coming directly to you.
Oh,
So I'm already
shit.
hot and miserable and pissed off. And then the bugs and down under are so different. So I start feeling these bugs biting me all over the
Oh,
place.
it's my fucking biggest pet peeve. Oh, my
And I'm
gosh.
trying to work on this very sensitive, like multi-million-dollar piece of equipment in my hands. And I'm up, 30 feet in the air, just sweating my ass off, trying not to fall down to my death. And I take my shirt off and I start swatting at these flies or whatever they were. And finally, I can't even concentrate. So I set my wrench down. I turn around. I'm like, where's all the bugs? There's no bugs. And then I start feeling like
shit.
this vibration in my body and this burning all over and these little bug bites all over.
Oh my.
And so I quickly moved the man lift to the edge of the dish, and I started screaming at our whatever you call this little like building that we were in.
Kiosk.
Well, it's bigger
thing,
than
or
that. They have a
trailer.
big facility, and then they have a couple of these little like kiosk things that are out in the
Okay.
field. But no, I'm yelling at the building. But it's not like it's full of people. There's a couple of techs in there. We're way out in Broken Hill or Kalgoorlie. I can't remember
Oh, that
where we
sounds
were at.
like a populated area.
Working whorehouses in both of those places. Like that's how far we're out. And
Jeez.
so I'm screaming at the building, and finally the Australian comes out, and he's sipping his coffee, and he's like, "Yeah, what's up?" And I said, "Dude, are we transmitting?" He said, "Hold on, let me go check." And he goes back in the building, and he's taking a sweet time, and I start feeling lightheaded, like I'm gonna puke. Like, you guys seen Chernobyl on HBO?
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, I don't think I've seen all of it, but I've seen scenes.
Yeah, I feel like I'm melting.
Oh my God.
And he comes back out and he takes a sip. He had to take a sip of his coffee before he told me. He was like, "Yep, yep." I threw my wrench at him.
Fuck, I would have too.
And I was so scared. And we're 12 hours different, so there's no one in the office, no engineers I can talk to. But I'm like scared. I'm a 20-year-old kid on the other side of the world without my mom, and I just got blasted by 32 gigahertz of whatever.
Jeez.
So I called my engineer at home, and I said, "Dude, my dick's gonna fall off. My brain's gonna leak out." And he said, "Well, how
balls are gonna shrivel up?
Your eyeballs are more." They're the first to go. So can you see? I said, "Yeah, I can see." He's like, "Well, don't worry about it. Go back to work."
Eyeballs are first
Get back
to go.
up in that man lift.
Like, what's his answer if you do say, "Yeah, like I can't see
I
that
don't
well
think
right
so.
now"? He's just like, "Oh,
But no, I've
how's
got
your feet?"
I've got a ton of different work experience. There's plenty of stories from there. But I actually, kind of relevant to the weed topic. Like, I worked at a drug rehab center here in Montana, out in
cool.
Marion, and I don't know if I should like say their name or not. But I was taking kids into the Bob Marshall Wilderness for 21 days and they'd get sober on their own, and then we'd go and work on like putting your life back together. So
That is so
I
cool.
saw a lot of broken, like tragic, broken people, young people, kids, 17 to 20, whatever, or 22. And again, I was able to see that and still decide that like marijuana is okay for our society. So I think that says
that's
something.
a really
says
cool
a
thing
lot,
to do,
honestly.
though. How long did you do that?
I did. It was the most meaningful position.
Oh, I bet. That sounds extremely rewarding.
But I did it until a tree fell on me and crushed me into about 4 pieces.
Jesus.
Back there up the South Fork of the Blackfoot, 20 some miles in on foot. And I woke up with my face laying on the trail and broken shoulder, arm, ribs, knee.
Were
my
you just
lips
hiking
off.
and the tree fell and
I don't know.
randomly hit
I
you?
don't remember.
Oh
That's
my
so nuts.
god!
I just woke up and
Were you by yourself?
No, I was with 10 people, 8 kids and 2 other like counselor.
None of them saw it happen?
Yeah, I kind of got the story. There was a storm and a forest fire went through there and burned all the trees out.
So they're very weak, whatever's standing.
They call them widow makers because
Yep.
all the root systems are out. So when the wind blows, they fall over.
Knock over and kill you and make a widow.
Yeah, and a tree fell and hit the kid at the front of the line and like broke his foot. And then I was running to him, I don't remember, but I like to think I was like Superman going to help
You're
this
about
kid.
to save his fucking life.
And
for
then
sure.
like 3 trees come down all at once. And one of them falls into a couple of the trees and
Jesus.
like ricochets off there like a swinging baseball bat and hits me. And I've got this pack on, this Mystery Ranch backpack with 75 pounds in it. And it hit this giant telephone pole baseball bat hits me right at the base of the neck. And I know that because I had a camp stove in there and it was flat as a pancake when we unpacked this pack.
Oh, damn.
And it threw me down the hill and I landed in a bunch of deadfall. And the kids thought I was dead. So they got to me and my face is ripped up. My chin is split all the way to my Adam's apple.
Oh my God.
And my eyes are open, but I'm not breathing. And so the kids say they still have nightmares about this. And they called me.
They're like, I came to help my life out. Now I'm just like
traumatized.
I came to clear my head and now I got PTSD.
I need a cord.
They like whoever it was, a couple of them ran down to me and I'm just staring, like dead, staring at them. And they're like, they called me Wilder Zach, like Wilderness Guide Zach. So they're like, Wilder Zach. And I just stared at him for a few seconds. And then I inhaled. I took a big breath. My eyes rolled back in my head and I passed out for like 7 hours.
Holy shit.
And then again, like that's a whole other story, but it would take me way too long to tell. But I woke up, I pissed out a bunch of blood. They threw me on a horse like an old John Wayne movie. Oh. My arm's hanging off my body, so they had to wrap my bedroll around me. I'm not coming back
to work tomorrow.
No, they sent me. They sent me on my way. I got some workers' comp money to like get me through the summer, and I went on a road trip with my brother, my cousin, my best friend, and another buddy. And we went from Kalispell, Seattle, San Diego, North Texas, New Orleans.
The story,
did you go down to PCH?
Kind of, yeah. It was like, hey, you're alive. What are you going to do?
So I was like, sounds like that might have been a little inspo for that story.
Yeah, we went up all the way up past New York to Maine and then zigzag back across the Midwest to finish our summer.
Nice. That's super cool.
Nice. The endless summer.
And then I went back to Los Angeles and resumed that. But no, I've worked a lot of different jobs. I'm in tech right now. I also have a full-time job. I'm a project manager for a tech company, and we build software solutions and stuff. And
that's amazing.
It's very busy.
Wow, yeah, you sound like a busy body, man. Seems like you're always just getting
you have
after
time to come here.
This is fun, and like I said, I had to put the phone on airplane mode because who knows what is happening out there in the world. But no, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Appreciate.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
stoked.
you for coming.
And like I
said,
said,
need to have another.
If I can get involved, like however, and even financially, like I fully support what you guys are doing, and when all the things drop in my life and in my business, like I'd like to get involved here and be a part of what you're doing. So
likewise, man.
Even if it's just as a cheerleader and from the sideline, but
anything, we appreciate any support.
Hey, yeah, we love what you're doing too, man. So like anyway, I mean, granted you got a little more tight knit business than we do, but anyway, we can be a part of helping you out or anything that you got going on. We got marketing teams, we got all that good stuff. Don't be a stranger in that aspect for sure.
We're looking at that. Whatever the state lets us do, we'll do.
That's kind of the scary thing about it. But like you said, it's just the dance we're taking, and at least we're able to sell weed to the people now. So that's good.
And good weed. And
good weed. At a reasonable price.
Montana Canna. Well, right on, Zach. I think that's a good point.
That's a wrap, sure.
To wrap it up.
Feels like a good stopping spot.
I think we would love to get you back on, though. It sounds
100%.
like you're full of stories and you got quite a lot of interesting things going on. And we just basically touched on your life in the weed industry, but we appreciate you so much for coming in. And again, man, everything you're doing for the cannabis industry and just like educating the people, making sure it's safe and everything's up to code. Like, thank you. We appreciate that a lot. And your kind words about what we're doing. We're just a bunch of young, aspiring artists and all that. So coming from an established person that's done some really cool things, that also means a lot. And just thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much.
Right on. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Well, right on, everybody. Thank you for listening to another episode of Casting
Montana
in the
Canna.
Trees. My guy, go to Montana Canna on January 1st and buy this guy out of his stock. It's going to go quick.
Yes, sir.
Right on. Thank you.